There are moments in life that divide everything into before and after. For Mary Jo, that moment came on a quiet day in May 1992, a day that nearly took her life and changed it forever. She remembers it as unreal, surreal, terrifying. At the time, she weighed barely 80 pounds. Her face was shattered, her body broken, and her life hanging by a thread. She had survived something no one ever imagines happening to them, a violent attack that left her critically injured and permanently changed. As she turned toward her front door, reaching for the screen, she never sensed danger. There was no warning, no fear, no time to react. In the next instant, everything exploded. The impact felt like being struck by a baseball bat, a shocking, crushing force, and she collapsed. It all happened in seconds. She didn't even realize she had been shot. Only later did doctors explain how close she came to death. The bullet passed dangerously near her face, leaving burns from the gunpowder and a permanent dent near her ear. Had she turned her head just a little differently, she wouldn't have survived. The physical damage never truly healed. Decades later, she still has no feeling on one side of her head, no hearing in one ear. Her jaw was shattered, her arteries severed, and her face permanently altered. Doctors later explained that the bullet striking her jawbone and then traveling downward was the only reason it didn't enter her brain. Every day since then has been lived with reminders of that moment. And yet, she is grateful to have lived, to have raised her children, to have made it through something that should have ended her life. What followed the attack was another kind of trauma, one she never expected. Instead of privacy, her pain became public spectacle. The story exploded across the world. Headlines, cameras, strangers at her doorstep. Her suffering turned into entertainment, into gossip, into a frenzy she never asked for. She lay in a hospital bed, barely alive, while chaos unfolded outside her home. The media camped there day and night, and what hurt her most was realizing how much her husband seemed to enjoy the attention. He talked to reporters, laughed with them, even brought them food while she lay inside, broken and devastated. The world focused on scandal, rumors, and sensational details, while the woman who had nearly been killed faded into the background. At the time, anger consumed her. She saw only betrayal and rage. It took decades and age to fully understand the deeper truth of what had happened. Looking back now, she recognizes that a teenager involved in the situation had been manipulated and abused by an adult who should have known better. That realization didn't come easily, and it didn't erase the trauma, but it brought clarity. What never came, however, was accountability. There was no public apology, no ownership, no acknowledgement of harm done. That absence stayed with her longer than the headlines. Years later, another blow nearly broke her completely. When her husband was arrested again, this time for soliciting a prostitute, something inside her collapsed. She stood alone in her bathroom, staring at a cabinet full of medications, overwhelmed by a single thought: what did I survive all this for? In that moment, she considered ending everything. The pain felt endless. The humiliation never stopped. The chaos refused to fade. But then, she thought of her children, the two lives that depended on her. They were her anchor, her reason, her rescue. That was the turning point. It wasn't instant healing. It wasn't easy, but she stayed. She fought. She endured. Years later, she shared this painful truth with her children, not to burden them, but to explain how deeply they had saved her. Their response was love, gratitude, relief that their mother was still here. Today, her children are grown. They made their own decisions about their father after witnessing his behavior over the years. One chose distance, the other keeps limited contact. Those choices came from lived experience, not bitterness. As for Mary Jo, she protects her peace fiercely now. She mourns the youth she lost to surgeries, hospitals, emotional trauma, and public humiliation. She mourns the years spent surviving instead of living, but she refuses to let what was stolen define what remains. At 70, her life is quiet and beautiful. She has peace, calm, happiness, grandchildren, simple joys, a sense of gratitude that comes only after surviving hell. Telling her story again isn't easy. It means reopening wounds, facing judgment, hearing whispers of why bring this up again. But she has a reason, a message. Her message is resilience. She wants people to know that trauma doesn't disappear. You don't get over it. You live with it. You grow around it. And if you keep going, truly keep going, there is something on the other side. Not perfection, not forgetting, but peace. And sometimes that's more than enough.
For full video, click related link below or like and subscribe this channel.